go. DM who doesn't know the rules enables a bad player to sexually harass other characters. Before we get started, some lightly not safe for work topics are referenced, so it's flagged. I do not speak English as a first language, and this occurred about 5 years ago with a group I still have some contact with, problem players aside. Names changed and throwaway account used for obvious purposes, trigger warning, sexual content, reference to physical and sexual assault, and overtones of pedophilia adjacent proclivities, Bleck. I am an understanding guy, through and through, but I have a limit to what I can handle before totally checking out. I'm an extremely experienced D&D player and DM, starting about 15 years ago with AD&D playing with friends and family in my living room. My dad was a big influence on me in this regard and gave me most of his old books to get started. My favourite edition is 3.5/Pathfinder, but I'd fallen into the rut of always the DM, never the player, since my significant other is really into tabletop RPGs as well. Needless to say, when I was approached by an acquaintance at work, GM, to play in his weekly Pathfinder game, I was elated. I was so excited to start playing, I made a badass Magus build with a 15-page backstory tied deeply into the realm of Galaria, the main Pathfinder setting. As the GM expressly told me, this was normal setting but with some homebrewed stuff. Totally fine with me. I'm a big proponent of Rule of Cool. The GM invited me to a group forum where myself and the other players would take part in off-session roleplay, party planning, and other chatting stuff. But trouble started at session 1. Prior to this, the GM let me know that the other players were longtime friends of his and were super RP oriented. His words. The main players. Human Wizard, a charming, very young lady devoted to the chronicling and painting of the exploits of her heroic friends. Played by Dave, a great guy and someone I'm friends with to this day. Human Rogue, a nobleman scholar who adopted the young wizard several years ago. A decent roleplayer, Jim, played the scoundrel as relaxed, level-headed strategist. Changeling Warrior, can't remember class, it's been 5 years, we'll call her Jane. Human Sorcerer, a hardline take-no-prisoners angsty edgelord, Carl. Human Magus, a typical weeb, that guy, we'll call him Derek. I asked if me multiclassing into Magus was going to be an issue, but he responded in the forum that you wouldn't even know she's a Magus. She just looks like a typical derogatory term for sex worker. Okay, but like meta, I could do a different build. You wouldn't know that she was a warrior at all because of her shivers in retelling. Open leather bustier with ample cleavage and no bra, wide hips and massive breasts. I was concerned and changed my character, but it takes... How am I having trouble with this easy sentence? I was concerned and changed my character, but it takes all types, so I just kinda brushed it off. Outside the sexuality, the player was odd. Seemingly a nice guy, he'd fly off the handle at any resistance, slight interruption, or obstacle to playing his sexy Magus lady. More on that in a moment. Me, Oread fighter, a harsh and self-hating beast of muscle and brawn, but balanced with compassion for others and a typical, lawful good, worldly outlook. The DM, a nice enough guy with cool voices, he played fast and loose with the rules, very fast and loose. Again, more on that in a bit, but beyond that I noticed some definite issues with him as a person talking to him outside of work. A typical, my uncle works for Nintendo kind of guy, if you catch my drift. He was a serial bullshitterer. I don't know how, is it bullshitter? Bullshitter. He was a serial bullshitter, and more on that, incredibly sensitive. Session 1. So, despite my massive backstory, the first session has us all shunted into a pocket dimension by an employer who then informed us that there was no way back yet. Great. I came to the group a little late, so I had absolutely no say in the decision to enter the dimension, and when my character protested a bit, he's a family man after all, we were forced by a level 40+ enforcer for your employer to drop to your knees with a wave of his hand. Fantastic, I relented. This was clearly a good plot hook, and I'm not about to ruin this guy's story. We warp to said dimension and the gateway closed behind us. We are now cut off from the outside world. Inside of this dimension is an ultra-high fantasy/sci-fi world where tiny floating island states are connected via a network of airships and pneumatic tubes. Cool enough setting, but I'd have liked to know the details of the actual adventure before designing my character. Conflict with the group came almost immediately. Dave, Jim, and I, being the outgoing faces of the party, ventured into a city to get to know the layout. Derek's character tags along with Jane and Carl. Derek's character tags along while Jane and Carl scout the surrounding wilderness. We engage in some light RP, I introduce my character to the other three, Jim and Dave respond in kind, and then it gets to Derek. She just looks you up and down and smiles at your muscles, licking her lips. She likes what she sees. Not one for discussion, eh? I respond, laughing. She looks angry and then says to the rogue, "Master, he mocks me, may I kill him?" before raising her fists and starts to circle. Jim looks at Derek, confused. "Master?" Derek grins and rolls to punch me. Does a 13 hit? No. Sorry, man. Sorry, does it hit your touch AC, flat-footed? Yeah, but why would that work? You're punching me. I've got a feat. I roll my eyes. Whatever, sure. 2 points of damage. Cue the most annoying PvP I've ever been involved in, where Derek's Sex Magus seems to have an ever-increasing to-hit modifier, 4 attacks per round, and magic heavy armor at first level. I keep trying to end the fight by pinning the Magus, but Derek keeps saying his character can't be grappled. I call a point of order, the DM looks at Derek's sheet and tells him to knock it off. I was a bit weirded out by this, but I talked to the other players, and through RP it was revealed that Derek's character was jealous of the attention my character was getting from Master Jim, who kept telling him, both in and out of character, to stop calling the rogue that. During the session, I got called out by Derek for being a bad RPer because I didn't respond to his character's advances properly. He read my confused look and said that any man would be immediately won over by her luscious figure. Cool, not my character. GM, why? At this point I'm confused by the GM's support of Derek, so I look at him in bewilderment. Me, about 5 pages of the backstory I sent you are about his loving husband and children at home. My character is gay. Derek flips the fuck out and starts saying it's revisionism, so I didn't have to listen to her. I ignore Derek and keep talking to the wizard, who's quickly becoming my young ward, and the rogue, who I playfully tease about his social blunders as we walk about. Derek got quiet about halfway through the session and posted a very not safe for work backstory dump in the forum about the Magus' upbringing, getting sexually and physically abused by her parents. Session 2, it gets worse. So Derek seemed to be mad at me, in real life. He's spamming the forum daily with messages about how excited he was for the next session to exact her revenge on my character. In the off-session RP, we set up camp in the wilderness because, surprise surprise, our coins are no good here. Day 2 in the dimension starts with the Magus lecturing the in-character 10-year-old wizard about how important it is to eat to fill out your figure and become busty, like me. Cringe, no, what? I sent a personal message to the GM that Derek was making me feel a bit uncomfortable, and he responded that if anyone else has an issue he'd bring it up, but serious topics weren't off limits. Cool, session 2 is incredibly tame. I get the idea that Derek is living out a sexual fantasy through his character, a typical anime girl, sexy ninja-esque working girl. I avoid his character in RP and openly ignore his attempts to RP with me. I'm not into it, and my character starts to treat his character coldly. Can you blame me? In retaliation, however, Derek himself starts telling NPCs and 2 scouting members of the group that sorry, frog in my throat from talking too much. In retaliation, however, Derek himself starts telling NPCs and the 2 scouting members of the group that my character is a pedophile because he likes wizard. The GM thought this was hilarious, and a guard cheerfully informs my character that there is no age of consent here. I immediately leave the table for that session and draft a resignation message. When both Derek and the GM apologize me When both Derek and the GM apologized to me directly, claiming it was just a joke. Regretfully, I returned for a few more sessions because that's easier to do than to deal with the emotional toil of separating from the group while working with one of the worst offenders. Sessions 4 to 8 are better, we have fun, and our characters start getting along as a team. Derek's character apologizes to my character directly, and my character accepts it. Bad stuff happened, but that's a post for another time. Session 9, my character is possessed. This is a doozy, buckle up. We start a fight with a spellcaster. Remember the level 40 plus enforcer the GM threw in to make us take the quest? Yeah, not a mulligan to railroad us, we fought a succubus kind of creature with enchantment spells. Oh, but here's the thing, the GM wants to roll our saves for us. I see where this is going. Alright. GM, she casts a spell at OP's character. Ooh, fail. Me, oh, I just got a class feature that gives me a bonus to my saves versus enchantment, so it's actually +9 and not +5. GM, sorry, you failed the DC by 20. I do the math quickly. You're telling me this is a level 10 spell? GM, no. That's way too high a DC for a group of level 3s. It's actually a 36, the DC. Me laughing, thinking it's some planned big bad evil guy encounter. Oh fuck, we lose. GM, no! The succubus vanishes from sight. Your character is filled with emotions as 15 points of psychic damage hits him. Me confused, okay, that's it. GM winking, you'll see. Wink wink. Then the rest of the party catches up, including the wizard in the rogue, who gets delayed by a clockwork beast in the castle courtyard. GM, OP's character feels an intense attraction to 10-year-old wizard. Me angrily, are you fucking kidding me? GM. Or you can choose for it to be Magus, me packing up. Fuck this. The GM proceeds to RP a graphic sex encounter with my character and the Magus. I pack up my stuff and start to leave when Dave and Jim catch up to me in the hallway. We go out into the parking lot and have a cigarette. When Dave asks us how we knew either of the others, we realize that we're all basically strangers who got tricked into thinking the rest of the group was a long-term group. The three of us draft a goodbye message, to which the DM and Derek blew up our phones, social media, whatever, calling us pussies who can't RP properly. DM even wrote me aggressive emails on our company server calling me homophobic slurs until I forwarded them to our manager. Happy ending, Dave, Jim and I found a new group and we play weekly. TLDR, a DM that hates the rules and doesn't care about our backstories enabled a sex-starved player to play out his fantasies to a captive audience and shamed us for being uncomfortable about the situation. Let's go straight to cringe. Edgelord tries to rape his own girlfriend, gets his ass kicked in-game, and rage quits. Trigger warning, rape. This happened in July of last year. We were playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, homebrew campaign made by your fellow op. Our table had 4 players. Ed, my childhood friend playing a half-elf cleric. Zin, the cringe edgelord aka that guy playing Leorio, homebrew race of humanoid lions fighter. Marta, Zin's girlfriend, playing Kitsune, Foxfolk, also homebrew, sorcerer. Her character was asexual, this will be important later. Paul, another friend of mine, playing human bard. Again, Session 0 happens, sheets created, gamer time. They were survivors of a military outpost that was raided by something they didn't knew. The first 2 sessions went okay, with 1 or 2 weird moments coming from Zin, like he asking the weight and breast size of Marta's character, but nothing too bad. This was going to be a fun campaign, am I right? Yeah, until the 3rd session. First of all, Zin and Marta came on different times. She arrived first while he came a little later. They didn't talk too much until the classic tavern scene. They were drinking and making jokes after a successful mission, and Zin's character flirted with Marta's. She avoided it, and when it became unavoidable, she just said that she was asexual because the slave owners that owned her used to abuse her. Well, at this time, Zin's -1 intelligence brain had an idea. Why not rape the fucking rape victim? Yeah, that sounds nice. He asked to roll strength to restrain her, he rolled 18 plus 4 and got her. Then he describes how he rips her clothes off and starts kissing and licking her belly and breasts. At this point I was going to intervene, when Marta bursted out crying and asked to talk to me in private. Apparently Zin and her had a fight and had little time without sex. Zin didn't like it and tried to rape her IRL. They make up, come to the game, and him apparently had the great idea of having his revenge in roleplay. Of course, I stood with Marta, kicked Zin out of my house, and made a reboot in the campaign. Edit: the ass beating part was when one of our friends rolled nat 20 to try and beat Zin's character senseless. I forgot to add that part. Edit 2, sorry about all the missing information. I was getting late while writing and had to shove everything a little to make it in time.